Okay, let's get started. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for the community session for March. Today we've got a couple of community demos, which is really nice, lined up. We're going to hear a little bit from the adoption SIG, the catalog SIG, and from the maintainers. But first off, I just wanted to say happy birthday to everybody and happy birthday to Backstage for our recent third birthday in the open source. It's hard to believe that Backstage has been around for 3 years now in the open source, and that the community is now the size that it is, with over 1,000 contributors and all of the fantastic work that everybody is putting in there. We've got over, as it says there, 3,000 project thoughts. We've got 38,000 commits, 12,000 PRs, 15,000 total contributions, 21,000 stars, 9,000 plus Discord members, and over 100 open source plugins. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. Happy birthday to Backstage, and look at the fantastic work that y'all have been putting in. Of course, it's not all without some growing pains. We are learning as we go. Right now, the main areas that we are learning about and that we're starting to focus on are around kind of that initial Backstage adoption stage. So the steep learning curve and the barriers to adoption. We do have an adoption SIG that is taking place as well, and we will share out the detail. I'll share out the details for that towards the end of this session. But we'd love to hear what everybody has to say, what everybody's thoughts are in, the adoption and the learning curves around Backstage. Help us to grow to be a better project. So with that said, in today's session, we're going to jump straight. We don't have release updates today. Apologies, that is still in there. We're going to jump straight across to the maintainers update first up. We've then got some updates from the catalog SIG, contributor spotlight, and into community demos. So without waiting around too much, over to maintainer updates.
Hello, I'm going to take this. Apologies, I sound horrible. I'm recovering from a cold, so anybody's watching this after, I'm sorry. Yeah, we released version 1.12 last week. There's kind of a lot of stuff that's going into this, but we have highlighted and summarized some of the things that stand out for us. Thank you to everyone involved, contributors, maintainers alike. So we have now, part of the scaffolder is that we can now define the input and output schemas with Zod. Some bits from the catalog, we now can get paginated entities and data from the catalog. There's some new plugins that have also been shipped to, which is a module for the catalog with integration with PuppetDB. Octopus Deploy and Stackstorm are also new too. Thank you to everyone that's helped there and contributed. All your names are on this sheet. A little update from KubeCon AEU for anybody that is going. Me and Patrick are giving our maintainer talk, so we will be there along with some of the people from Spotify too. So if you are attending and you see us, please reach out and come talk to us. Let's go take a drink, whatever. We can go grab some coffee. Speaking of Patrick, I think he's going to also talk a little bit about the governance.
Yes, indeed. Just sharing the, I think, exciting news that we just merged the Backstage governance update. So go give it a read. It's now the governance MD doc. Same doc, it looks different. It now has a bunch of different roles that we have introduced. I think to call it out quickly, there are now organization members. You can be a plugin maintainer, a project area maintainer, and then we have core maintainers who are kind of the old maintainers, that the four of us. Reach out if you're interested in any of those roles. There's a form where if you want to become an org member, it's a fairly lightweight process, and we just hope to be able to bring more people in and be more engaged with the project by being members of the organization and be able to take on ownership in the project. So yeah, give it a read. See what you think. If you have feedback, it's not too late. It's merged, but we can adjust things. Yeah, I think that's it. And I don't know if we can handle questions if there's anything now or later.
Take a couple now if there are any questions. or we can take them later. That's totally fine. Okay, so that's maintainer updates. I'm going to pass it over to Richard, catalog SIG.
Hi, I'm Richard. I'm on the catalog core team, and we're running the SIG. Some current discussions happening in the SIG. The special interest group for the catalog is a discussion about how to handle orphaned entities and conflict resolution. We're looking into providing event and like hooking into the event stream to provide events when entities get updated or deleted or similar. And the hope is that that will open up a reduction of complexity in the core of the catalog to make it easier to work on the catalog and move some of the core functionality into replaceable plugins instead for increased customization. If you have an interest in joining in on the SIG, it's every 2 weeks on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Europe time, which can be confusing during daylight savings when the US and Europe is out of sync. But any schedule changes to that should be posted in Discord. So please join us.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Okay, next up, I just wanted to highlight Carlos. I'm not sure if Carlos is here today, but I wanted to highlight him as our contributor of the month. So hopefully, Carlos, if you're not here, you get to see the recording. Just wanted to call out the fantastic work he's been doing around the microsite and all of the effort put in there. So thank you, Carlos, and hope to see you more and more around the community. Okay, enough waffling from me. I want to hand over to some demos. So I hope I get this right. Heikki?
Heikki, yeah, hello.
Heikki, perfect. Handing over to you then, sir, for some homepage demos, I believe.
Yeah, all right, let's get started. So hello, everyone. I'm Heikki Hellgren, and I work as a lead developer at OP Financial Group here in Finland. And OP Financial Group is maybe the biggest bank in Finland. So we have around 4,000 people working in the software, and we started to take Backstage into use very late last year. So we are really in the early steps as well. But then we can maybe jump to the demo. So what and why I'm demoing this today. So what we noticed with our users is that we can make some nice homepage in the Backstage, but it doesn't really work for everyone. So when we add something, people complain that I don't need this in my homepage, and other way around, some people want something new. So I came up with the solution, and I'm going to demo it now. So let's see if I can find the, yeah, here. Hopefully my screen is showing now. So here's the new kind of homepage. So here you can define basically the default configuration for all users, and in this demo it's just basically the search page. But what this allows now users to do is to edit this homepage like they want. So they can resize these widgets and also add another new widgets to it, so you can have completely how you like your homepage to be. And this can be moved around here and also deleted if you want. And then all these widgets have also possible to add some settings. So there's possibility to use the React JSON schema form definition for this form that is on here, and you can now select which kind of jokes you want to see in your front page. And now you save it, and there you have it. So this is now saved in the local storage of the browser, and the user will see this the next time he or she comes to this page. And what makes it really cool is that you can actually use any components that the plugins allow, publish with the create a component extension or the create card extension functionality. And that's about it. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
How so I guess a couple from my side, just thinking
Yeah,
accessibility and mobile, how does it work? Does it work with mobile? Have you thought about any of the accessibility things as you've been going through?
Yeah, so it scales. If I now take like a mobile view, I don't know if you can see it. You can define how many columns are there in each breakpoint, so it scales like you want it to do. So it works pretty well. Now it's just messed up because I have this.
And I guess the other one for me was challenges. How challenging was it to implement this into Backstage? Was there anything about Backstage that you found difficult, that caused difficulties in implementing this? Was there anything that you found really helpful in developing this?
Well, this uses, I don't remember even the name of the, just a second, here's my PR open. So this React grid layout, and it allowed me to do all this shuffling and stuff like that. But what comes to the Backstage integration, I think the hardest part was to get the widget specific settings to work here. So you can actually get the form out and what kind of settings you want to have each of these widgets here. So, but I think that works pretty well, because now when the user selects some settings and saves them, they are now passed to the actual component as a property, so they can just use those however they like. So I think that works pretty well.
I have a question as well. The widgets, do you think they could also be distributed as plugins?
Yeah, why not? So I can show you how this current homepage is configured. So there's this custom homepage grid, which basically does the grid part of it, and then under the children, you have all the possible widgets you can like show to the user, and some of these are already coming from different plugins. So you could have like just plugin that exposes these homepage widgets. So why not? And here's also an example of the default configuration. So if the user doesn't have anything saved, then it will show the search bar and where to show it and so forth. But yeah, there's more information in the README if you want to check it out. So.
Very cool. I see, Emma, you asked a question in chat there. Do you want to ask that, or do you want me to read that out?
I'm happy to read my question, Lee. Thank you. I'm just interested in where the user settings of the customizations are stored.
Oh, right. Yeah. I think I have example here. So here, yeah, so this is the random joke settings, and this is JSON schema form like object, and you can basically have all of these different components here defined for the form, and they will be rendered there in the widget settings, and then they are passed as a properties to the actual widget or the actual component. So.
Is that also for the widgets that I choose to have on my specific homepage? like not the settings of a widget itself, but the actual widgets I decide to see.
Yeah, the user-specific settings are then stored in the local storage.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So they are browser-specific settings. I don't know if there is future plans to make them more persistent in the database or something, but let's see how this goes. Let's try to get some more feedback how it works. So we'll go from there.
Okay, and Camilla, you were asking a question as well.
Yeah, hi, nice work. Just curiosity, are you collecting any metrics just to know what are the most popular widgets, or if there's a place for people suggesting new widgets if they want to?
No, not at the moment, no.
Nice, good to know. Thanks for answering.
Thank you for the question.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Oh, go on, Heikki. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No problem. I don't have anything. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So just wanted to say, firstly, this looks awesome. So thank you for the contribution, and thank you. I've seen in the PR there's quite a good, vibrant conversation going on in there. So just to encourage everybody else as well to kind of take part in that conversation if you are interested. Thank you for demoing it today and for answering a few questions for us, dude. Really excited to see where it goes next. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna jump across now to another community demo. So I'm gonna hand over to Taras. Is next.
Sounds good. Awesome. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I want to show you today something that's been in the works in the Scaffolder plugin for a while. It's already in Scaffolder Alpha release, and there's actually quite a lot of components that are now exported from Scaffolder, so you can and then you can use them in other places. So what I wanted to show you today is I'll show you like how we're using it. And give you an example of, I think, how it could be used. And then we can go from there to talk about like how the actual implementation works. But there's a common pattern right now. We have a component in Backstage that allows us to show when metadata is missing. So for example, if you go to like docs, what you'll find is this component that's saying that that you're missing annotation, and then you can go, add this annotation to YAML document. The challenge that we see with adopters or with users using this page is that some users look at this and go, oh, there's something wrong with my page, like something wrong with this YAML document. Like I need to go fix it. And so what they end up doing is they're going to create, like they go make a pull request and update this just to put some value in here so that this page will go away. But as a result, when they do that, it actually just kind of puts them in a funky state. So instead of having this kind of component page, a page that gives users kind of work to do, to kind of fix this, what we could do is we can guide them through the process of doing this work. So when they go to docs, instead of seeing that placeholder page with instructions, what they will see is a Scaffolder workflow that will guide them through the process of making the necessary changes correctly to onboard their project to use TechDocs. So they can hit review, and then they can hit create, and so now the Scaffolder workflow runs. And so this Scaffolder workflow is running inside of what you notice that we're not leaving the entity page where that you're applying this to. It's happening in the context of the entity page. So you're getting all of the information about, like, the context is maintained. You're not context switching to a different page of the site. And so now the workflow ran. What we'll have here is a pull request And this pull request includes in it everything that the entity needs to properly publish, to run tech docs. So it has like the GitHub Action workflow. It has the catalog info YAML document is updated to add the necessary metadata. It creates a docs directory with the index file. It has the MK docs YAML file. So everything they need, like once they merge this, once they merge this pull request, it will automatically like onboard their entity. So next time they could come back, it will show them show the documentation. So this is the so what I'm showing here is a use case that like kind of improving user experience using a feature of the scaffolder where we're embedding the scaffolder into another page that is not, it's not in the create section. It's actually part of the actual page, but this component can be embedded anywhere. It's not like we're just happen to use it here, but it can be used, but Scaffolder exports the necessary pieces to be able to embed these things anywhere. Anywhere you can render React component, you can render this this kind of a workflow. Are there any questions before I proceed to actually like how the implementation works? Yeah, so Emma has a question, which is, can you decide which template is being used there? Yeah, it's when you write the React component that renders the scaffolder workflow, you can tell it which template you want to use, and you can essentially so let me show you how what that looks like in code. So in what we'll look at first is let's look at the actual like the implementation of this specific component. So if we look at the entity page, the entity page has this. So so when we go to docs, we're rendering. So we made a little wrapper, like we made a wrapper component around what's provided by Scaffolder, but essentially what we're doing here is it's just a shortcut because Scaffolder Alpha, like a Scaffolder Alpha release includes all of the components necessary to make this happen, and we just made our own component to kind of bring it all together, so we don't have to kind of duplicate effort. But essentially, what we're doing here is we're saying we created this entity onboarding workflow that what it does it takes the template name, and then it's going to render, it's going to use that. It's going to use that template. And so inside of the actual component itself, what we're doing is we're effectively taking the current entity, and then we are, where is it? Yeah, we're taking the information about the entity, and then we're passing it to this Scaffolder workflow, which loads the template, and then it passes that template to the components that are provided by the Scaffolder workflow, but by the Scaffolder Alpha. So yeah, you can essentially control which template is used per embedded workflow component.
Hey, Taras, I've got a comment and a question. I really love this. At Expedia, we have something similar. We have a bit different tech doc setup where we have our own like Jenkins publisher, and it's sort of repo based. We don't have it as an annotation, but we can add, but we don't have this showing the flow and the this. So this would be a perfect thing to bring in. And yes, contribution, Emma. And I'd like to see where this is and see if we could just maybe package it or add on to it or something. But one thing that we've done that would be a great addition to this is we have documentation templates that people can then pick, and they'll get these sort of generic, like a playbook, a user guide, whatever it is. We have some default and then some optional ones that they can pick. And then when we create the mk.yaml and the docs, plus the basic MD files, we can put whichever one of those in there to get people started. So I love the idea of pairing that with this for a really complete solution.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of places where we can use like in a very specific way we can use, like, give a guided onboarding experience to a specific feature that we want users to use. So it's kind of like, it's if we're talking about like golden paths, it's along that golden path, giving people at each part of the golden path, giving them options that is very contextual, so they don't have to they don't have to piece things together. They just have everything that they need in the right places. So I think we can start to combine these and start talking about how we can combine these different features to create a good user experience.
One follow-up is, does any of this work overlap with when you are creating an entity brand new with a template, giving tech docs for free? Is there any overlap there?
Can you say it again?
So whenever somebody creates a new service, for instance, using a template, I wonder if there's some way that this could be combined with that, to where they're getting tech docs for free with an mk.yaml and some basic MD files and such, like from the beginning. Basically sort of an onboarding later, which is what this is, versus a get it from the beginning when you create something.
One of the things that we're thinking right now in how we're using this is that the default, like right now, we have smaller like onboarding. So instead of front loading a lot of the onboarding and making the users fill out the complex forms, what we're doing is we're breaking that like creation process into more like asynchronous things that happen as the user interacts with things. So like they can create, for example, a system, and then they later add a component to it, and then they later can add a feature to the component that they need. But break up these kind of break it up into more asynchronous operations that they can perform over time. And so in the process, what's happening is that we're finding that we have a lot of scaffolded workflows that are more granular. And so one of the other changes that's happening in the scaffolder alpha right now is that the template, like the create screen, is becoming a lot more flexible, so that the components that make up the create screen are exportable. And I think what we're going to be doing in our projects is controlling what shows up on that page, so that you're only seeing specific things. Like, so instead of seeing a list of like 100 different templates, you're seeing like maybe a list of like 10 templates or 15 templates that represent like the high entry, like the big entry points or the main entry points. And then once you create those components, you can interact with each component and onboard things that you need incrementally, as you kind of understand what those needs are from the user perspective. So that's the way that we've been thinking about it. Like, I don't know if that
that's interesting. But it's a philosophical approach of doing a lot at the beginning versus a process where we have additions as we go forward. I guess really that'd be good to have a choice, so that if these are all componentized, it doesn't matter. The org could decide which way they want to do it, but if they're all in these discrete chunks, then it's ready to go either way.
Yeah, one of the challenges, I think, doing it like, so we have currently a technical challenge of how do you compose templates. So if you have a workflow that represents like adding tech docs, how do you compose that workflow into something that is like, I'm going to create a component and that's going to automatically have tech docs in it. There is an open issue about this. So I think this work here, it leans more on like do it asynchronously, so we don't have to so that the composition, like combining those bigger creating bigger workflows from smaller workflows is not something that we're solving right now. So when I say we, I mean like front side with our clients in our projects, but I think it's, as a community, Backstage community, something that we need to think about longer term is, if we wanted to create, like if we have these kind of discrete templates, if we wanted to combine them into a single bigger template, like we need like the framework. It would be good for framework to provide us more primitives for that, but we don't have those yet. Like we have an open issue to talk about that, but it's not. There are some ideas, but it's not fleshed out. It's not easy yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Gabriel asked, can this feature be used on another annotation plugin like Sonar Cloud annotation, missing annotation screen? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think all of the like basically anytime that we have this missing annotation screen, I think ideally like missing annotation screen is a default, but I think a better experience would be to for each of those missing annotation screens to provide an onboarding workflow so that you could, but those need to be implemented. I think we could create like maybe a onboarding workflow component that could be reused. One of the pieces that's required to make that work is we need an action that is good at adding annotations. We have to create it, and we could contribute this action. Like we have an action that, like for us to create. So if you notice here, the like if you look at this catalog info file, the annotation is actually very adding the annotation is only one line change. So to update the catalog info files this way, you need a GitHub action that knows like YAML AST to actually make this update without changing the structure or changing the format of the document. So we need to have that kind of an action. But once we have that action and we have a kind of an onboarding component, then I think we could apply that to replace all of the, like to make it easy to replace the missing annotation screens with a guided onboarding experience. Emma, you said we have I could see a Confluence Markdown, Confluence to Markdown template coming in, and I imagine that being useful as a starting point for adopters too. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the. I mean, that's definitely. I mean, that's a really interesting idea. Like, essentially, you would have you would start off with, so like, I could see here instead of let's see. So here where we select the where we specify the YAML document, we could also specify, like, you could choose a Confluence page, and then and I think Expedia folks just contributed there's a PR open to contribute a workflow or action for converting Confluence pages to Markdown. So we can essentially at this point allow them to choose or put a link to a Confluence page and then convert that Confluence page to Markdown. And then when they create the PR, that PR would include, like, instead of the index page, it would include the content of the Markdown Confluence page. I think that would be really that'd be a really nice workflow.
Yeah, we are POCing that right now, so look for that in the future.
Awesome. So this onboard, okay, so the docs, so we don't have docs for it yet. I mean, this is something that so the scaffolder workflow, if you look at the scaffolder workflow export, so the alpha version of scaffolder React, so there's a new package called Backstage Scaffolder React, or Backstage plugin Scaffolder React. So this new plugin has a bunch of React components that we're using. So it's something that we could talk about offline, but essentially I think we could create this like onboarding component or provide some documentation on how to do it. Ben, I think it'd be good for us to talk about like what we want to do as a follow-up here, because I think we're getting pretty close to be able to allow folks to use it. So Johannes, I need to think about how to do, like, what the steps are going to be for this to make this onboarding scaffolder workflow. But for now, we can give you an example on how to do it. And if you want something that's easy to use, you could just use this. In the meantime, you can use this Frontside created a package that we provided for our clients, which has the essentially what you see, what I showed. So all the pieces that I showed are in our repo. So I'm going to share those links so you can see. So there's this link, and there's also the example of the onboarding workflow using that same. So this is the onboarding workflow. So you can see how that works. So there's 2 links there. Okay, and Hugo, essentially you're running a template scaffolder on existing code base, right? Do you see other options besides missing annotations? I think what's really interesting about this is, like, I chose missing annotations as an example of improving onboarding, but I think there's a lot of places. What's really interesting about all the components that are exported now by the scaffolder React package is that it provides us the building blocks for building. Like, one of the things we could do is we could actually use stepper components. So like, think of like, where would you want to use a stepper component? And that's essentially like, you can use a stepper component that is exported by scaffolder React, and you can use it anywhere. So I think there are you could imagine, for example, like you could have something like, oh, I want to create a new, I want to make an ephemeral environment with certain configurations for a specific service. So you could, for that given service, you could create a component that is going to run a scaffolder workflow after taking some input from a user. So that would be an example, that'd be another example of using this kind of embedded workflow, and then essentially triggering a workflow as a result of it. Are there any other questions? Comments? Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Taras. Thank you for sharing. And again, I guess I encourage everybody, if you are interested, please do jump into the community. Taras, I know you're really active there in Discord and in GitHub, etc. So please, the more minds, the more feedback, the more thoughts, the better. So fantastic. Okay. So that actually brings us to the close for today's session. So I just wanted to say thank you to Heikki and thank you to Taras for sharing and demoing with us today. Congratulations to Carlos as contributor of the month this time round. This session you'll be able to find up on our YouTube. You'll find up on our YouTube channel in the next couple of days. And again, I look forward to seeing you all in the community. So wherever you are, thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Thanks, guys.